he makes it very easy to be a fan. I mean, he makes it very easy to want to get on board. He's got the skills. It turns out he's a handsome guy. He's a well-spoken guy. He's not afraid to engage with the audience. Like, there's just a lot of things. He's got one of the most respected teams with one of the most respected coaches in Henry Hoof. Like, everywhere you turn, there's something positive. But you know what oversees all of that? The layer that oversees all of that, that makes it easy to be a fan? He doesn't know how good he is. And that is almost a contradiction to the interviews that you see. That's almost a contradiction to who his idol with Conor McGregor is. It's almost a contradiction to looking at his record, of which is perfect. The first time I saw Ian Machado Garry fight was at Madison Square Garden. And he does the interview, "Hey, Joe, as a wise man once said, we're not here to take part, we're here to take over." Does the whole bit, but there was some really rare skills in there. So I watched him again. I watched him a third time. And it was the setup on his feet. I mean, it's rinse and repeat. He's got one thing that works, but he can do that one thing to everybody, and that's what the true greats could do. The true greats, the Mike Tysons of the world. I'm going to hit you with an uppercut, and then I'm going to hit you with a hook. The uppercut's going to be with this hand, and the hook's going to come with this hand. The hook might go to your body, and it might come to your head, but I promise it's going to be one of those two spots. Are you ready? Okay, you don't seem ready. Why don't you take 10 weeks and work on it? Uppercut, followed by hook. Uppercut to the face, hook to body or head. Got it? There's one of these things, and a decade later, nobody got it. Simone Biles, same thing, rinse and repeat. Jordan Burroughs, double A, rinse and repeat. John Smith, low single, 2D high crotch, rinse and repeat. The greats do something, but they can do it to everybody. And Ian has a setup on his feet. And all of his offense comes off of the same setup. But the setup, while working, is also a tell. He's telling you, before he goes offensive and before he goes to strike you, when he does the setup, he's telling you, I'm about to strike you. He's telling you. He's daring you. It's fascinating to me. But I watched it, right? I watched this guy, man, this guy's the real deal. This guy can really fight. Does the interviews as though he knows all of those things. But he was so excited to break into the top 15. He went and got a tattoo that says 15 because he broke into the top 15 and he was so proud of himself. So now you got this guy that says all the right things and his record's got this beautiful thing and they're moving him right up the card. I've beaten 4 men in the UFC before I ever got interviewed by Joe Rogan. You know how embarrassing that was? I'd finish the fight and I'd stand there waiting for Joe to get there. And then there'd be somebody, some kind of, that would point. I'd be standing right in the middle of the cage, put my credit, you know, my mom's looking at me. I got this proud moment. I'm standing there. Opponents have already left. Waiting for Joe to get in. Then finally somebody runs, tells me, hey, it's one of these spots, right? I mean, they jump right up and they start interviewing this guy. This guy's got everything. And he's handsome on top of it all. Like, he's got everything going his way. And then he shows this actual childlike excitement to be in the top 15 that's very sincere. And I'm looking at him, and I'm even talking to my friends about him. This is a world champion. There is nothing about Ian Garry or his skills or his potential or his work ethic or his commitment, all these things that you hear behind the scenes. There's nothing that would preclude him from being a future world champion. And when Neil and Garry got booked, I knew that fight wasn't going to happen. I wish that I would have publicly predicted it for you. I did privately. I knew that fight was not going to happen. I'm going to leave it at that. And all of a sudden, Neil Magny's in. This is for the Boston card. And Neil deserves a lot of credit. Neil Magny is awesome. Neil Magny is the real deal. He will compete with anybody. Neil Magny at one point in his career was on a 7-fight win streak. And I do want to give plenty of shine to Neil Magny and his willingness for stepping up and taking opportunities. I will just tell you that Garry deserves that same credit. Like, that's not what Garry was planning to do either. And Jeff Neal and Neil Magny are very, very different. Whatever preparation you've gone to or money that you said when you brought in sparring partners and did some of this silly stuff that guys love to do, you got a whole new body type. You got a whole new skill set. You got a whole new guy in front of you. And I do give the credit to Magny, for sure. But I just do want to mention that this young man early in his career has also not blinked. And it's also not what he was planning to do. Neil Magny's phone rang, and he got a call. Are you willing to do this? And he said yes. He had the right answer. But Garry got that same phone call. And he said yes, too. A young man that broke into the top 15 is about to take on a hardened veteran who at one point beat up 7 guys in a row. And there's not 10 guys in history of that weight class that can make that same claim. It's a really hard and difficult match. And Magny's smart, too. Magny's a veteran. Magny's one of these great fighters that could go on to be a great coach. And great fighters don't usually make great coaches. Great coaches weren't typically great fighters previously in any sport. Any sport that you want to do that in. But Magny has an IQ and he can see things differently. All the stuff I'm talking about, the setups, all the stuff about the telegraphing, letting you know before I come what I'm coming with. Am I starting with my hands or am I starting with my feet? I mean, all of these things that I can see by watching Garry, and I'm not even breaking them down. I just happen to watch Garry and I know these things. Magny will know those times 5. He's just got an eye for those kinds of things. This is a really interesting match. This is a really great match. I do give Magny the credit. I know he stepped in on short notice. I understand what history says when you take on a younger guy, but I would like to remind you, when Magny got a phone call, Ian Garry got that exact same phone call.